I never wanted to pick a fight with the HOA. I just wanted to fish. Every Saturday morning, like clockwork, I'd roll out of bed at 6:30 a.m., make myself a strong cup of coffee, grab my old tackle box, and head out to the lake behind my house. It was a ritual that kept me sane. Quiet mornings, soft lapping waves, birdsong, and the thrill of that first tug on the line. That lake wasn't just water to me. It was peace, a living, breathing reminder of the calm I fought hard to build after years of working double shifts and raising two boys on my own after my divorce. That lake had seen me at my worst and helped me get back on my feet. Our neighborhood, Briar Hills, was typical suburban stuff. Fresh painted fences, identical lawnmower patterns, passive-aggressive HOA newsletters, and mandatory committee meetings no one wanted to attend. My house backed up to the lake, which was considered community property. Fine by me. I never caused trouble. I never left trash. I never crossed anyone. I just fished, kept to myself, and nodded politely when I passed joggers or dog walkers. Then one morning, the air shifted. I was casting my second line, the sun just cresting over the tree line, when I heard it. The unmistakable clop, clop, clop of foam flip-flops. Angry ones. I didn't even turn around. I knew who it was. Linda, the president of our HOA. Now, I don't like to judge people, but Linda made it real hard not to. She was the kind of woman who carried a clipboard like it was a weapon. You could spot her from across the neighborhood. Sun visor too tight on her head. Sunglasses too big for her face, and a sour expression that could curdle milk. She was an elected HOA president. She seized a title like Napoleon seizing the crown from the Pope, without so much as a good morning. She stood 3 feet from my lawn chair and barked, "You're not authorized to fish here." I blinked. Come again. She gestured to the lake like she owned the whole damn water table. Per Article 12 of the Briar Hills HOA Recreational Use Policy, fishing without board-issued permission is strictly prohibited. I let out a half-laugh. "Ma'am, I've lived here for 6 years. I fish here every Saturday. My yard literally touches a lake." She didn't flinch. "It doesn't matter. This is shared property. Unauthorized lake use is a violation. You'll be fined." And with a flourish, she produced a crisp, pre-printed citation from her folder and handed it to me. HOA violation, unauthorized lake use. Fine, $100. I held it in my hand like it was a dead rat. "You're serious?" I asked. "I don't joke about compliance," she said, spinning on her heel and flip-flopping her way back toward the sidewalk like she just shut down a major drug bust. I sat there dumbfounded. I wasn't hurting anyone. I wasn't littering, trespassing, or blasting music. I was fishing on the edge of my own backyard. When I got home later that morning, I went straight to my laptop, pulled up the HOA website. Sure enough, buried in a 93-page digital PDF, there it was, Article 12, recreational use of shared assets. But the language was vague. All recreational access must be approved by the HOA board via formal permit. No mention of lake proximity. No exception for longtime residents. No common sense. That night, I walked over to my neighbor Charlie's house. He'd lived on the lake even longer than me. Vietnam vet. Tough guy. He answered the door in a sleeveless tee with a beer in hand. "Let me guess," he said. "Linda got you too." I held up my fine. "Third one this month," he said. "You know old man Henderson down the block? Got fined for letting his grandson skip rocks." Over the next week, I found out Linda had issued 7 lake-related violations. Paddle boarding, duck feeding, a kayak. It was like she declared war on the water. I emailed the board to appeal. No response. I left a voicemail. Nothing. I even mailed a formal letter, which I know they received because I hand-delivered a copy to the Dropbox and saw Linda herself collecting them the next morning. I was starting to boil. This wasn't just a petty HOA rule. This was personal. Linda had found a way to assert dominance over something pure, something simple, something that made life just a little bit better for people. And now it was a power trip. That weekend, I stood at the edge of the lake and watched the water ripple in the golden light. I could see ducks gliding across the surface, their reflections broken only by the breeze. This place had been a quiet, sanctuary. And I wasn't going to let anyone, especially someone with a clipboard and a superiority complex, take that away from me. So I decided to do something about it. Not another angry email. Not a neighborhood petition. Not some petty backyard protest. No, I was going to fight just the way Lyndon never expected, by playing the long game. The war for the lake had just begun, and she had no idea what I was about to do. Most people would have just paid the fine and moved on, but I'm not most people. And Linda, she picked the wrong fisherman to mess with. That $100 fine wasn't about money. It was about control. A quiet declaration of power by someone who thrived on enforcing misery. And now that she tasted blood, I knew she wouldn't stop with me. She was about to tighten the screws on the entire lakefront, one clipboard citation at a time. So I did what I always do when someone draws a line in the sand. I started digging. I pulled out the dusty HOA welcome binder. We all get shoved under our front doors when we move in. In there, somewhere between the lawn mowing schedules and emergency contact sheets, was a complete Briar Hills HOA charter, a brick of fine print, so dense it could stop a bullet. I stayed up until 2 a.m. reading it, highlighting, bookmarking, scribbling notes like I was preparing for a courtroom showdown. What I found in Article 17.4, shared environmental assets, made my eyebrows shoot up. It clearly stated, Briar Hills Homeowners Association is responsible for managing recreational assets located on leased parcels of water and woodland, as negotiated with the original developer or designated landholder. Leased, not owned. The HOA didn't own the lake. They leased it, and the lease had an expiration date. I damn near dropped my pen. The next morning, I called the county clerk's office. After a bit of hold music and a very chatty receptionist named Debbie, I was able to get a copy of the original land plat and lease agreement. Sure enough, the lake was part of a separate parcel, officially owned by a man named Harold Simmons. My mind was racing. If Harold still owned the land beneath the lake, and the HOA merely leased the rights to manage it, then technically, he still had full ownership. And leases? Leases can end. I found Harold's address, an old farmhouse about 35 minutes outside town. I called the number listed on the property record, half expecting it to go to voicemail, but a man picked up on the third ring. This is Harold. Hi, Mr. Simmons. My name's Ben. I live in Briar Hills, on the lake you own. He chuckled. Still got that place, huh? Didn't know anyone remembered me. I explained the situation. How the HOA was cracking down on fishing, paddleboarding, duck feeding, and basically anything joyful involving water. How they were using a flimsy interpretation of community management rights to punish longtime residents. How they'd find a 76-year-old woman for skipping rocks with her grandson. Harold let out a low whistle. Sounds like things haven't changed. You've had trouble with them before? Oh, yeah. They tried to tell me what kind of fence I could build on my land. Claimed it disrupted the lake view. I told him to take a walk. He paused and added, You know, I've been thinking of selling that lake for years. It's more headache than it's worth. My heart skipped. Would you consider selling to someone who lives on it? Depends. You serious? I'm very serious. He invited me over for coffee the next morning. Harold lived in a modest farmhouse, surrounded by rolling green hills and the kind of silence that city people spend money to find. His wife, Judy, made strong coffee and lemon cookies from scratch. The three of us sat around the kitchen table like we'd known each other for years. He pulled out a yellowed map with original survey lines and boundary markers. The lake was clearly outlined, and sure enough, my backyard stopped just a foot shy of Harold's land. I had never technically touched the lake, but I could. How much are you asking? I said. He scratched his chin. I'll let it go for $78,000. That's what I paid in taxes over the last 15 years. You'd be doing me a favor. I didn't even blink. That was the amount I had saved in my retirement fund, originally meant for a boat or a vintage truck. This was better. We shook hands that day, and just like that, I bought the lake. I owned the water Linda thought she ruled. By the time the ink dried, I had already ordered metal no trespassing signs, called in a surveyor to mark the boundaries, and hired a local company to install a discreet chain link gate across the community path that led to the lake. Then I dropped the bomb. I wrote a formal letter to the HOA board. As of this date, the lease granting recreational access to the Briar Hills HOA is no longer active. I am the sole legal landholder of Lake Parcel 17B. All public access to the lake is revoked. Trespassing will be documented and prosecuted under state property law. HOA board members are excluded from all future permit programs until further notice. I had it notarized and hand-delivered it to the HOA mailbox. 3 days later, Linda showed up at my door in full-blown meltdown mode. "You can't buy the lake," she screeched, jabbing her finger at my chest like a deranged auctioneer. "Pretty sure I can," I said, holding up a crisp copy of the deed. "That's community property. It was leased community property. Now it's privately owned. You're punishing everyone for what I did." Sounds like a board accountability issue to me. She stormed off, screaming about lawsuits and legal consequences, but I already had a lawyer lined up, and he was very interested in holding the HOA accountable for years of overreach. By the following weekend, the new signs were up, the gate was locked, motion-triggered security cameras blinked quietly from the trees. The neighborhood flipped out. I got hate mail, anonymous notes in my mailbox, nasty posts on the HOA Facebook page accusing me of destroying community traditions. One board member even claimed I was staging a personal coup against the spirit of shared living. But behind closed doors, people were cheering. Charlie from next door fist bumped me in the driveway. Mrs. Henderson brought me cookies and called me the Lake General. Even teenagers I'd never spoken to before started waving at me like I was a local legend. I'd done what no one thought possible. I had beaten the HOA at their own game, and the war wasn't even over yet. By the time Monday rolled around, I'd already set up a new email address, lakejustice@protonmail.com, and printed a fresh stack of official-looking notices on cream-colored cardstock with a gold border. At the top, private property notice, lake access permit required. Beneath that, access granted only to approved non-board community residents. I made sure every word felt like policy, cold, bureaucratic, the kind of language HOA boards love throwing around. Only this time, it was aimed right back at them. Then I waited. The first angry voicemail came from Greg, the guy 3 doors down who ran every weekend in yoga pants and mirrored sunglasses. "Hey, man, look, we've always been cool, but what's with the gate and signs? My son tried to fish yesterday and got turned around by your new security cameras." I call him back politely. "Greg, I own the lake now. I'm revoking access until we sort out a new system." Linda went too far. There was a long pause. "Seriously? You bought the lake?" "Every inch." "Holy, okay. Damn. Look, I'm not mad. Just surprised." But Linda's about to blow a gasket. She already had. By Tuesday morning, she called for an emergency HOA board meeting. Flyers went out. Emails. A post in the neighborhood Facebook group titled, "Community Crisis, Private Lake Hostile Takeover." I didn't attend the meeting. I didn't need to. I sent something better. A certified legal notice addressed to the board, printed on my lawyer's letterhead, confirming the transfer of ownership, the revocation of the recreational lease, and a cease and desist on all future events near the lake without written permission. I was told Linda read it aloud to a room full of homeowners and nearly turned purple. That week, the Facebook group became a battleground. Posts were flying. "This is petty and vindictive." Honestly, Linda brought this on herself. Good. She fined me $75 for letting my dog sniff a duck. One post had a poll titled, "Who's the real villain, HOA Karen or Lake Avenger?" I won by 84%. But I wasn't done. See, I kept every letter the HOA had ever sent me. I still had a file folder full of warnings, notes, and photos Linda had taken from behind trees, like some suburban surveillance squirrel. I started pulling receipts, literally, cross-referencing dates and times she'd cited neighbors, looking for patterns. Then I compiled a list of every single person who had been unfairly fined, cited, or reprimanded for lake-related infractions over the last 5 years. Once I had my list, I made a second batch of cream-colored envelopes. Inside each one was a custom-made lake access pass, printed on plastic like a gift card embossed with gold foil. Lake Justice Permit, valid for life, non-board members only. I hand-delivered them to each household on the list. Some people cried. One guy brought me a six-pack. A retired teacher named Mrs. Pennington gave me a hug and said, "It's about time someone stood up to those clipboard bullies." Of course, not everyone was happy. The board responded by attempting to throw a community unity barbecue by the lake. They announced it in the newsletter. Linda even went door to door asking people to stand together against selfish behavior. They set up on a Saturday afternoon. Tables, tents, balloons, a grill, music. About 30 people showed up. I waited. Once everyone was gathered, I walked calmly down from my back porch with a deed in one hand and a lawn chair in the other. I sat 15 feet from the grill, unfolded the chair slowly, and just watched. Then I spoke. "Hi, folks. Just a friendly reminder. This is private property now. No permit, no party." Linda stormed over. "This is outrageous. You're weaponizing ownership to punish everyone for my decisions." I smiled. "You finally get it." She tried to rally the others, but the crowd had already started packing up. People whispered. Others shrugged and left. By the time the grill cooled, only Linda and 2 other board members remained, standing awkwardly with their paper plates and deflated egos. I leaned back in my chair and cast a line. It was the best fishing session I'd had in years. Later that week, Linda filed a complaint with the county, claimed I was abusing private property rights. The county clerk responded with a one-line email. Ownership confirmed. No violation. Then she tried calling the local newspaper. They passed. But the neighborhood gossip blog? They ate it up. Local man buys HOA lake, declares it a tyrant-free zone. Briar Hills water war, Lake Justice rises. I became a minor suburban legend. People started referring to me by nicknames. The Sheriff, King of the Pond, Captain Justice. Linda, meanwhile, stopped appearing in public without a printed binder. Rumor was she was documenting every abuse of power for some imaginary legal battle. But no battle came, because I'd already won. And the best part? I still hadn't used the nuclear option. Yet, the real revenge didn't come from the signs or the access cards, or even the public embarrassment at the HOA's failed barbecue. It came 2 weeks later, when Linda made the biggest mistake of her life. She tried to sneak back onto the lake. It was a Thursday morning, around 7:15 a.m. I was enjoying a quiet coffee on my back porch, binoculars in hand, watching for loons and herons like I always did. That's when I spotted movement along the eastern tree line. Someone was ducking between the willows near the far bend of the lake. I zoomed in, and there she was, Linda, in full stealth mode, dressed in a beige tracksuit, crouched like a burglar with her cell phone pointed at the water. At first, I thought she was trying to take photos of the waterline, maybe to drum up another false complaint. But then she did something even dumber. She stepped past the boundary fence and onto my private dock. Now, a month earlier, I'd installed small security cameras across the perimeter, all motion-triggered, all streaming to my laptop and backed up on the cloud. And I had one placed very deliberately beneath the deck rail. She didn't see it, but it saw her. She spent about 15 minutes filming the lake, talking into her phone like she was shooting a documentary about HOA injustice. Then she had the gall to unfurl a large community access is a right banner and drape it over the dock rail. I let her finish. Then I walked out from my porch with my phone in hand and said loudly, "Morning, Linda. Need help finding your way back to not committing trespass?" She froze, her face drained. "I'm documenting this for the board. This lake belongs to the people." I raised my phone and hit play on the security footage, showing her climbing through the fence and unfurling the banner. "You're trespassing. That's a Class B misdemeanor in this county. And you just recorded yourself doing it." She bolted. Later that afternoon, I dropped off a flash drive of the footage at the local sheriff's office. I didn't press charges, but I made it clear I could, and that if she returned again, I would. By that weekend, word had spread. Linda had been caught red-handed, and she was now officially banned from the lake. She lost control of the narrative. People started coming to me directly with HOA horror stories. I created a private group chat called Lake Liberation Alliance, and it exploded overnight. We were up to 94 members within days. It wasn't just about the lake anymore. It was about everything Linda had done. Every ridiculous fine, every threat about mailbox paint, every petty battle over lawn height and fence color. People were fed up. And then something wild happened. We had the numbers. With enough signatures, we could force a recall vote. By midweek, I printed 150 Remove HOA President petitions, each with a QR code leading to documentation of her trespass incident and a list of fines issued during her presidency. I didn't even need to knock on doors. People were waiting. We got the signatures within 72 hours. At the emergency election meeting, Linda walked in with a smug smile, clipboard in hand, convinced she'd rally the old-timers and rule by fear like always. But when she stepped up to the podium, she saw the crowd, not just the regular board members, not just the nosy neighbors, but nearly every lake-adjacent homeowner in the community. People she thought would stay quiet, people she had found belittled or ignored. The vote wasn't even close. 127 to 11. Linda was removed as HOA president. She didn't say a word. She just packed up her clipboard and left the building. And with that, the reign of Lake Karen was over. The board installed a new interim president, Mrs. Pennington, the retired teacher who had once been fined for feeding ducks. Her first act? To propose that the HOA begin leasing lake access again, under the owner's new rules. My rules. And I was ready. The neighborhood felt different after Linda was gone. Not overnight, but like the first crisp wind of fall after a long, choking summer, you could feel the change. Lawns looked greener. Kids played closer to the lake. Neighbors waved longer. Conversations didn't feel like whispered exchanges under surveillance. The reign of fear had ended, and in its place, we built something better. The HOA board, now under Mrs. Pennington's leadership, began meeting in public again. No closed-door sessions. No surprise fines. They even held a town hall in the middle school gym where residents could speak freely without being cut off mid-sentence. For the first time in years, people showed up because they wanted to, not because they were afraid not to. And the lake? It transformed. I opened applications for a lake permit program, a limited access system with just one rule. No HOA board members past or present. I charged a symbolic $1 annual fee, just enough to cover a laminated pass and a sticker for their mailbox. I didn't make a dime off it. That wasn't the point. It was about principle. Within a week, I issued 97 permits. Neighbors started coming back with their kids, their rods, their canoes. On Saturday mornings, I'd look out and see fathers teaching their sons to cast lines, retirees sitting quietly with folding chairs and coffee thermoses, teenagers skipping stones, laughing like kids should. We even had a picnic event, the first annual Lake Freedom Fest. I hosted it. Mrs. Pennington gave a short speech. Doug played guitar. Someone brought a bubble machine. And at one point, someone yelled, "Let's name the lake." A dozen voices chimed in with suggestions, but the one that stuck? Karen's Folly. That sign still stands, painted on reclaimed wood, proudly nailed to a post near the dock. A gentle, permanent reminder of what happens when petty power goes unchecked and what it means when a community takes it back. As for Linda, she moved out 4 months later. Rumor had it she took a job at another HOA across the county. I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up with that same clipboard, ready to micromanage flower beds and harass dog walkers. But here in Briar Hills, her legacy was reduced to a running joke and a cautionary tale. I kept fishing, of course. Every Saturday, same time, same spot. Only now I wasn't alone. One morning, a kid from 2 blocks over came up to me with wide eyes and a brand new rod. "Hey, mister," he said, "can you teach me how to fish like you do?" I smiled. "Sure, kid. But first, let me show you the best spot. It's right off the dock." He looked over and pointed. "You mean Karen's Folly?" We both laughed. The lake had given me peace once. Then it gave me purpose. And now it had given the whole neighborhood something far more valuable, a fresh start. I didn't set out to become a hero. I just wanted to fish. But when they drew a line in the sand, I cast a line in the water and reeled in justice.